7:44 in the morning. This is Acadiana's Morning News. St. Landry Parish voters will be going to the polls in a few months from now to vote on a property tax item that will help the district rebuild some of its schools, or I should say renovate some of its schools and build new facilities in the district. Joining us on the phone to discuss that proposal is the superintendent of St. Landry Parish Schools, Patrick Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins, thank you for joining us this morning. Hopefully your fall break is going well.
Oh, it is. It's going well. We're doing professional development this morning with teachers, and definitely everything's going well. Good morning this morning.
Good morning. And let's start off with this tax plan that will be on the ballot in the next few months. This is something that's been tossed around and something that's been discussed over the course of, if I remember right, at least the last year, maybe 2 years, to help fix up some of the tracks at some of the schools, renovate some stadiums and field houses, but also to build new facilities in the parish. And there are a ton of schools that are bordering on 70 years old, a couple buildings that are closing in on 100 years old that are still in use and are in desperate need of work. So for those who aren't familiar with this property tax proposal, what all would it do? What would it fund? And how much more of a tax hike would residents be looking at if it were to pass?
Yes. First of all, we're looking at what the board and I are looking at are three components to the tax proposal, and they're all separate, so nothing's tied to the other. I think that's very important to everyone as we go through this process. Number one, we're looking at a tax proposal to increase salaries for teachers. That's the first component. That would be a teacher increase for $3,000. And $2,000 for all support personnel. That's critically important that we compete with our neighboring parishes in terms of salaries for our educators in St. Landry Parish. This particular millage will be for 10 years at a rate of 9.9 mils. The second proposal that we have is for athletic facilities. As you know, many of our tracks in St. Landry Parish need some repair and some work to them, as well as some other minor renovations within the parish itself athletically. And this is for 1 mil. And so we just want to do some minor repairs. That should generate approximately $662,000 per year in order to be able to do this particular millage. And then the last, which most people probably are familiar with or have heard the most about, is proposal number 3. This particular proposal is not going to exceed $150 million to run, not to exceed 30 years. This particular millage is approximately 12.9 mils. And this would, again, generate $150 million to do renovations to build new K-4 schools in 4, as I like to call it, zones throughout St. Landry Parish. Those areas would be in the Opelousas, Eunice, Beauchamp, and Northwest zones. I call them by the high schools that facilitate those particular zones. And so we're looking at starting with K-4 schools first, and so that we can work with our younger children and hopefully as we build our master plan, be able to look at middle and high schools along the way.
You mentioned these three proposals are all separate. They're not tied together. But let's take a look at them as a whole. If they were all three to pass, what is the expected increase in property tax for Joe Q. Public Resident?
I don't have that at the moment. Those millages were just approved at our last board meeting. And so there's some variables that we will have a calculator for that this week so that we can be able to break down what each millage will give the John Q. Public, as you put it, so that they'll know approximately whether I support all three of them, I support one of them, or two of them, or whatever combination that we're looking at. We'll be able to determine exactly what that's going to cost the public.
When you look at the St. Landry Parish School Board's website and you look at the job openings, there are 60 some odd positions that are still open across the parish. What do you attribute that to? Is that the low teacher pay raise, or is there some other reason why the St. Landry Parish School District is having an issue recruiting and retaining teachers?
Well, there's a number of variables when it comes to filling those positions. First of all, we do have people in those slots in terms of long-term subs, but we're definitely looking for full-time employees, and some of them just haven't been cleared off the books. There are a number of variables. There is throughout the country, not just St. Landry Parish and not just Louisiana, there's a teacher shortage. It is definitely being felt in St. Landry Parish as well as throughout Louisiana and the country. We're doing our very best working with our local universities such as UL and others in the surrounding parishes within an hour radius or so, like McNeese, LSU, Southern, et cetera, to be able to get graduates in here and work with our children. So there are a number of pay is definitely a big component of it. We want to be competitive. Ponca just passed the tax over there, I think $6,000. They just passed St. Mary. Lafayette has done so a few things. Evangeline is competitive in salary. So when we look at those parishes around us, definitely salary has a role. But I think the biggest contributing factor is just there's a teacher shortage throughout the country.
Proposition 2, the millage would renovate the track and field structures at North Central, Eunice, Beauchamp, OHS, Northwest, and Port Barre. And I can speak to Beauchamp as an alumnus there because the track at that school was condemned 15 years ago, my senior year. And again, speaking for Beauchamp, they used to have 3 track meets a year, which brought in somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 a year extra income for the school with those track meets. That's not counting the years they hosted district or other track meets that would come to them on a rotating basis. It's the same thing for the other high schools where their tracks aren't in the condition where they cannot host meets anymore, and that's taking away revenue from these schools. So for Proposition 2, yes, it may be a temporary expense depending on if it sunsets or if it's renewed after 10 years. But for these schools, this is more than just, hey, this is something for our PE classes. This is money that hasn't gone to their pockets in quite some time. When you look at it that way, is that something that the school board is using as a pitch to voters for this tax, for this millage?
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mr. Ozan, Ian. And that's important that we look at in terms of being able to provide those facilities so that those schools can generate revenue, but also in terms of competitiveness. I have a saying that I want to be a AAA school district, athletic, the arts, as well as academics. And in order to be a AAA school district or to be competitive in athletics, we have to provide the best facilities for our student athletes that we possibly can. And as you indicated, our tracks need some repair to them. They're in disrepair. And so we only have one track that's an 8-lane track that can host a district meet or a regional meet in St. Landry Parish, but we can't compete on it because it has some damages to it as well. That's in Opelousas. And so we, by passing this proposition, this one meal proposition, this will give our student athletes an opportunity to compete on a first-class track and also be able to provide other equipment like weights and so forth in the weight room. In addition to that, we'll be able to provide those field events and so forth, equipment for our athletes to have. As you know, if you've gone to track meets in the past, we didn't have all the equipment that we needed for our athletes to compete on. So that is just a matter of providing some equity in terms of equity, as well as being able to provide first-class equipment for our student athletes. They do a tremendous job. Beauchamp, as you mentioned, just won district championships last year, and they're running on grass right now. So we want to be able to provide the best for our student athletes in St. Landry Parish.
We have about a minute left, sir, and I want to ask you this because it popped up on one of the Facebook feeds that talks about the millages. A former teacher in the district said, and I quote, "Until we have people in charge who can be trusted, it ain't going to happen. Teachers and the general public have been lied to for way too long. It all starts with taxpayers waking up and electing board members who have the best interest of our children in mind. Make your voices heard." Again, this is a former teacher who posted this on a Facebook post. In about a minute, how do you respond to that? What say you about that particular comment?
Well, and that's very important. I've heard that for a long time here in St. Landry Parish. Trust is very important, But I also want to remind the taxpayers in St. Landry Parish, we haven't passed a property tax since the late 80s in St. Landry Parish. The last tax that was passed for employees here was in 1999. And so it's been a long time that we've been able to pass a proposition for our children, for safety, for quality education, for greater facilities, athletic facilities, as well as school facilities. In addition to that, over the last 5 years, since I've been superintendent, we've been great fiscal managers of our funding. We've never had a budget that's been in the red. We've been able to stabilize the budget. We've been able to utilize those dollars to be able to provide quality education, new curriculum, technology, upgrades and repairs to our schools. So we've been great fiscal stewards of the dollars that we've had, but we just don't have enough. And so we're just begging and want people to consider and listen to our proposals over the next few months and give us an opportunity. Give us an opportunity to be able to provide the best for our children so that they can receive the best quality education in St. Landry Parish that we possibly can provide.
Patrick Jenkins, he's the superintendent of the St. Landry Parish School District, not only the superintendent, but also a product of the St. Landry Parish Public School System. And Mr. Jenkins, when you get that calculator out, let's have you back on the show. We'll talk more about it, and we'll go over the specifics of how it breaks down, and again, reminding people of what all is in the works should this proposal pass in March.
Awesome. I'd love to be back on and discuss that with you. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Patrick Jenkins, superintendent of St. Landry Parish Schools. We appreciate the time, sir. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. With that, it's 7:56. Fox Business Report up next, brought to you by Artco Equipment Rentals in New Iberia. Let Artco handle all of your heavy equipment needs. That and the Fox News Update coming up right now.